Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Lane Smith. I'm the Research and Fellowship Coordinator at New York Sea Grant. And this webinar will review our 2026-2027 Biennial Research Call. I will go through the research call document and then answer any of your questions. So I've been the research coordinator at Sea Grant now for 25 years. It's hard to believe. My background's in aquatic ecology and primarily stream and river ecology. And for those of you who are new, Sea Grant, New York Sea Grant is a cooperative program of the State University of New York and Cornell University. Our main administrative offices are at Stony Brook University on Long Island. That's where I'm located. My colleague, Jeanne Johnston, is with me today, and she's our fiscal officer, and she'll answer any kind of fiscal related questions. We also have Sea Grant is a national network of programs. The Great Lakes and coastal states all have Sea Grant programs. There are 34 Sea Grant programs. It's part of the National Sea Grant College Program, which is part of NOAA. Sea Grant initially got its start from Act of Congress in 1966. New York Sea Grant was established in 1971, so we're over 50 years. It is a college program that conducts research in coastal areas, coastal science related topics. And also the other aspect of Sea Grant is extension, outreach, and education, and takes the research that we fund and extends it, and also extends other information from other sources. Our extension offices, administrative offices are located at Cornell University, and we have extension staff located at various places in the state, and I'll show you that. Sea Grant is research that is applied. It's applied research. We fund research to help coastal constituencies better manage or use or prepare or plan for coastal resilience or coastal resources, coastal economies, coastal resilience. We fund research to help those audiences make decisions using the best available scientific information and tools. And that is the primary goal of doing that, through funding research and doing extension. This research call, the 2026 research call, is our main biennial call. Sea Grant has a 4-year cycle, and each 4-year cycle has 2 biennial calls. This is the second of our biennial calls for this cycle. We're in the middle of our 2024-2027 cycle. The 2024-2025 research projects are in their first year, and we're running this research call this year for the 26-27 funding year. So I am going to share my screen and go through the RFP and share links. And if you have any questions, just raise your hand or type in the chat. All right. All right, so this is the Sea Grant website, and our current funding opportunities are under grants and policies, and under funding opportunities, and you would click on that. The other way to get here is our direct link, which is www.nysgproposal.org. If you got the email announcement, if you're on the RFP email list, you probably have that link in here. And if you type that into your web browser, you end up in the same place. This is our list of current funding opportunities. As you can see, we have a couple of fellowship opportunities as well as the research call. I just want to point out some other current funding opportunities. We have an undergraduate fellowship called a Community Engaged Summer Fellowship, and you can click for information. And we have a New York Coastal Resilience Law and Policy Summer Fellowship. Our biennial call is every other year, so this is for 26-27. In 27, we'll be running the next call for 28-29. We also have a biennial call with Connecticut Sea Grant as part of the Long Island Sound study. And this is a research call to support science-based management of the Long Island Sound. And that's going to be run next year. And then there's a couple of fellowship opportunities. But I wanted to point out that we have 2 announcement lists. The RFP list that sends out announcements of the Long Island Sound and our biennial research call, fellowship opportunities, and other RFPs. And if you're interested, if you're not already on it and you want to join it, you can just send me an email asking to be added to the list, or you can click this link to go to a form. We also have an employment and student opportunities list, which lists a variety of academic and industry and agency coastal related jobs, and also fellowship and student opportunities. And if you also want to be on that list, just email me and ask, or fill out the request form. So when you get to this page, you just click on this, and this takes you to the application page. And this is basically some details. The due date is Monday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. through this portal, and only through this portal. You cannot email, fax, or mail your application. It has to be through here, and you do it by clicking this. But what I'm going to do is draw your attention to this link. This is the full RFP. You just click on that. And this is the document. Let's see if I can zoom in here. And so you can see it real nice. This is the official document of the RFP. Anticipated funds are $120,000 a year for 2 years. You could do 1 or 2 year projects. We anticipate supporting around 8 to 10 projects. This is some background about Sea Grant, which I mentioned, and then Section 2 lists the topics that we're looking for funding. For the RFP, the research is natural or physical or social science endeavors that have explicit and testable hypotheses. You can develop new tools, models, techniques, state-of-the-art knowledge synthesis, but they must also be hypothesis-driven. Proposals that only describe or monitor conditions and that do not test specific hypotheses are not considered. The research should generally be, it's a university level research. So the proposal needs to have information that will provide information, tools, and whatnot to assist managers, communities, and other constituents in making decisions or plans regarding coastal resources, environments, and communities. And it must have rigor to make it appropriate for university research. the need, the significance of the products, the applicability, target audience beyond other academics, and expected impact of the research must be clearly anticipated and described. That's an important factor in the review. In addition to research, extension is an important component of Sea Grant. And so you're strongly encouraged to contact extension staff. And there's a link to our extension staff. And it's part of our website. This is the list of all of our extension people and their specialties. You're encouraged to peruse this list and reach out to any specialists that have even remotely connection to the topic that you want to develop a proposal for. I know that we don't cover every single area, but we do have a pretty good list of extension specialists. This is a map of their locations, and they're pretty widespread through the state. So you're encouraged to reach out to them. Part of the full proposal, if you are encouraged for a full proposal, is to develop a extension and outreach plan within 2 months of the start of the project. And we encourage multidisciplinary, multi-investigator research and research among various disciplines that have anything to do with coastal research, including physical, chemical, natural, and social sciences. That being said, we also welcome smaller projects that are only 1 year and maybe not, high amount. So you can consider doing a project like that. We also encourage early career or new career investigators and new institutions and new researchers. And if you're an established investigator and you're familiar with Sea Grant research, maybe consider bringing on an early career or a new researcher as a co-PI and serve as a mentorship role. That would be useful to help develop the next generation of researchers. Your proposal and your pre-proposal must address the specific topics and goals that are listed, and you need to do more than just have the list. You need to actually describe how your project addresses the goals. Simply having a list will not be as compelling. So these are the goals. They fall under 4 focus areas, and each focus areas has separate goals. So focus area A is healthy coastal ecosystems, dealing with any kind of ecosystem related research. And we have 1 and 2 goals. I'll leave it to you to read through them and figure out what goal and focus area and goal is you're going to be your pre-proposal. Our second focus area is sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. This is finfish and shellfish and aquaculture. And we have 2 goals, several objectives under each goal. Focus area C is resilient coastal communities and economies, anything to deal with coastal businesses, coastal Great Lakes and coastal communities and economic related issues. And we have 2 goals under that with few objectives under each one, 3 goals under this one. So this one has 3 goals. And then the last one is environmental literacy and workforce development. And there's 2 goals under that. 1 objective on the first goal and 2 objectives on the second goal. And this relates to improving awareness and literacy and learning about environment and coastal issues. Who is eligible to submit a proposal? We have 4 eligible groups, and this is the order of preference. Number 1 being researchers at universities and colleges. followed by researchers at not-for-profit research institutions, then researchers who are personnel of state or local agencies or not-for-profit organizations, and then researchers at for-profit institutions and companies. All proposals that are submitted have to be led by a lead PI who is an eligible researcher whose primary base is in New York State. Co-PIs and associate PIs can be from out of state. Federal employees can participate in projects as collaborators, but they can't be included in the budget. So they can't get any compensation. Students and Sea Grant staff cannot have any PI, co-PI, or AI status. Postdocs depend on what your institution's policies are first. And a note that if you're a researcher at a non-university institution, you should ensure that your organization has the infrastructure to apply for, receive, and manage federal grants. There's a certain amount of forms and procedures that have to be followed. So if your organization doesn't have the equivalent of an Office of Sponsored Programs, it might be quite challenging to apply for and accept a grant. And one way around that is to consider partnering with another organization, either a university or a research institution that has like a grant office that can manage grants. If your organization doesn't have that facility, you could look into partnering with someone who does. PIs who have received funding for biennial calls for the two previous consecutive calls are not eligible to submit. They can be co-PIs or associate investigators, but that proposal has to be developed and led by the other PI. So be aware of that. The proposed work covers the years February 1, 26 to 1/31, 28. No cost extensions are available. The start date is dependent on the availability of annual federal appropriations. As some of you know, sometimes there are delays because of that, but that's the nature of federal funding. Support is given 1 year at a time. So you receive 1 year, second year is contingent on progress, and again, on the availability of federal funds. The budget is not to be more than $120,000 per year. Your pre-proposal just lists year 1, year 2, and the total. There's no breakdown. There's no full 90-4 form that comes in the full proposal. But your proposal is, your pre-proposal budget amount is meant to be pretty realistic. And any substantial change between that and the full proposal, if you're encouraged, will not be viewed positively. You should be less than 10% difference. Awards under this call are administered as a cost reimbursable award. So you don't get a check or anything like that. You get an account set up, and applicants submit invoices to us for reimbursement, and that's how the award is managed. The lead PI is required to keep up with the submitting invoices and not letting them accumulate until near the end of the project. So just a word here about the roles. The lead PI is the overall lead of the project. They are the administrator. They keep track of the budget. They submit the invoices. They are the overall charge of the project. They advise the student if it's a student project and whatnot. The co-PI is is the next in line. They're like, they can take over for the PI if they need to. They share the duties of doing the research. Um, the different objectives could be under different PIs, but the lead PI is the point of contact. So when we reach out to them for reports or anything else, the lead PI is who the email goes to, and we would carbon copy the co-PIs, and reports would be submitted by the lead PI. Even if it's written by the student or the co-PI, the lead PI has to sign off on it and submit it. Associate investigators are lower level. They're not at the same level as a co-PI or full PI. They wouldn't normally take over a project. The co-PI would if the lead PI leaves or is not available. An associate investigator is usually in charge of one specific aspect of a project. They might be doing one or two objectives that are focused on a specialty that they have, or they might be doing specific analysis that they have expertise, a genetic analysis or a chemical analysis, or using some specialized piece of equipment that they have training in, and that work is contributing to the project. That would be an associate investigator. These grants require have a cost share requirement of 50%. So it's 50% of funds requested. So if you request 100K from Sea Grant, the budget must demonstrate an additional 50K of non-federal cost share. And it has to be 50% each year. So you can't do like 25% one year and then 75% the next year. Each year has to be 50%. If you have questions about matching funds, we'll try to answer them now, or you can contact Jean Johnston for any questions. There's a limit on salary requests. If you're a full-time faculty, I think no more than 2 months, but there are some exceptions. On other eligible investigators, it can be up to 6 months. The Sea Grant programs are on the same funding cycle, so you could conduct multiple multi-state collaborative projects. You have to work that out with the other state and the other co-PI. You have to be familiar and comply with the other states' policies. You need to distinguish between which project is which and what objectives they are. If you're submitting to more than one grant maker, if it's the same project, you need to inform us. If you're submitting funding for another grant, but it's a different project but similar, you need to be clear on what the differences are. We do not intend to fund duplicative work. As you prepare your pre-proposal, there are some parts where you have to make certain acknowledgments. One acknowledgement is the data management plan. That if you are encouraged for a full proposal, you need to acknowledge that you will need to provide a data management plan in that full proposal. And there's details in the full proposal guidance. Another acknowledgement is the extension and outreach plan, which is described here. You will have to acknowledge that that's required if you're encouraged for a full proposal. Again, the full proposal guidance has more details. If you are encouraged for a full proposal, you need to acknowledge that a NEPA form is required. And again, further details are provided in the full proposal guidance. And then another part of the pre-proposal is whether you're going to request Sea Grant scholars. We have a special fellowship called Sea Grant Scholar Fellowship. Some of these projects that are funded often are for a master's level student or maybe a PhD chapter. And one way to support those students is through the Sea Grant Scholar Fellowship. which is a fellowship program that allows a student to work on a project, that work on their master's or part of their PhD on a Sea Grant project. And since it's managed as a fellowship, they're not an employee. And so since it's a fellowship, there's no IDC or fringe charged for that. They don't get a 90-2. They're not employees. It's a fellowship, and they receive a stipend. The principal investigator determines who is going to be a Sea Grant scholar on the fellowship, on the project. And if you choose to have a scholar or two, those funds allocated for them are withheld, and Sea Grant uses those funds to pay the scholar through a payroll distribution directly by New York Sea Grant. So New York Sea Grant is the administrator of the scholarship, of the fellowship. And if you're interested, you put that in the pre-proposal form. And then if you're encouraged for a full proposal, the full proposal fellowship, the full Sea Grant Scholar Fellowship details are sent along with the policies and appointment forms. You're encouraged to include Sea Grant scholars as part of your projects. Publication costs are part of Sea Grant. We expect funded researchers to publish their research in peer-reviewed journals or proceedings, trade press, attend and present at conferences. We're trying something new this year and providing 2 different budget lines for publications. One line would be for peer review publications that you would publish in the future. And then the other line would be for non-peer reviewed publications that you would probably produce during the course of the project. And what we intend to do is anything you allocate for peer-reviewed publications would be withheld, similar to what we do with the Sea Grant scholars. And then we would manage those charges, and then 2 years later, you'd submit a publication that you've written up. We would have funds available to pay for your publication charges. We strongly encouraged open access publications, and we know they can be expensive, and we hope that holding these funds, we can at least pay for some or a major portion of those open access charges. If you have questions about that, you can ask Jean or myself. So what to submit? You need to submit a PDF, a single PDF file. And I'll show you the process for that in just a moment. Make sure your PDF is the final version. Make sure it's, once you have it all together, double check it's final. Make sure you can open it. Make sure there's no weird formatting or anything. When you submit it, you'll get a confirmation that it's been submitted. And then we take it from there and review and go through the review process. You should probably submit your proposal, hopefully someplace where you have a good internet connection, which usually is at your university office. If you're working from home, it's up to you to make sure you have a stable connection and can connect to the portal and upload your file. And this is the web link. If you have problems, you can call me. I'll try to troubleshoot, but if you wait to the last minute, that's going to be hard to do. So the portal shuts down after the deadline, and you won't be able to submit. Any proposals that leave any parts out or go over page limits will not be qualified. The review process, the pre-proposals are reviewed by Sea Grant managers, extension specialists, and our program advisory council, especially our program advisory council. And the main criteria for the review is how well the project proposal responds to those topics and goals. The better you are at addressing those, the better chance you have of being encouraged. And also the likelihood that the proposed approach will be successful and what is expected from the outcomes of the project and what's actionable and who's going to benefit. Those three things are the main criteria. There may be other programmatic considerations such as geographic distribution and institutional and topic balance that may result in out of rank order selection. So that doesn't usually happen, but it could happen. The top rated pre-proposals will be encouraged to submit full proposals. We will encourage about twice as many full proposals as we expect to fund. So we're talking about 8 to 10, so 16 to 20 of the submitted would be encouraged for full proposal. And during your full proposal development, this is when you really should reach out to extension staff to facilitate connections with private communities, industry agencies, and other groups that would make use of your proposed research. Full proposals are subject to male peer review. We find 3 peer reviewers per proposal, and there's a technical review panel that reviews the peer reviews and the full proposals. And then in addition, all the full proposal authors are given mass copies of the peer reviews, and proposal authors have an opportunity to provide responses to those reviews. And the technical review panel gets the peer reviews, your responses, and the proposals. They have an all-day meeting, and they're evaluated using these 5 criteria that you can read up on. And then they're ranked based on a number from 1 to 4, and the top ranked ones are selected for funding. Again, balance across the portfolio may lead to a proposal being funded that is out of rank. So the timeline, February 3rd is the deadline for pre-proposals by 5 p.m. The pre-proposal panel meets approximately February 27th. As soon as possible afterwards, we notify the PIs of the results. For those who are encouraged, we have this type of webinar again on March 11th and 13th. Full proposals are due on May 7th. We hope to get peer reviews to full proposal authors in the June 24th, 25th range. And then you'll have until July 9th to provide your responses. The tech panel meets around approximately August 7th. And then as soon as after that following week, we notify all investigators of the results. And then for those that are selected for funding, any revisions that have to be made based on feedback from the peer reviewers, any adjustments to the budgets, the NEPA forms, and all that are due by the end of August, beginning of September. Permits, permissions, IRB approvals are due around September 1st. No field work or anything like that can be conducted until you have those in place. For those who are funded, we will do another webinar to review policies and procedures. You'll get letters of awards, and your acceptance forms are due by mid-January. And of course, the projects are anticipated to begin on February 1 2026, assuming contingent on availability of federal funds. Outreach plans are due April 2026, and then February 22nd, 2027 will be the second year of the project. And then again, in addition to here on the website, we also list all the Sea Grant extension staff. Okay, so this is the main form. You can use this as a template. You have to fill out every section. There's 9 of them. If you don't include all the information, if you don't meet the page limits, you will be disqualified. So this is the form. The last name of all the investigators, a brief title, list all the investigators and their contact information, mailing address, telephone and email, and indicate the eligibility category. And then your project details. Here you describe which goal and focus area and goal and objective that you're going to address, and do more than just list them. Try to write a little bit about how your project addresses those. And then it's just some yes or no questions. Just is this regional and multi-program submission, yes or no? This is the text you should put in your proposal for data management plan, that you acknowledged if you have a full proposal that you have to do that. The same with extension and outreach plan, the NEPA form, and the permits and permissions and IRB approval. You need to have these in place before your project can start. If, for example, if you're collecting samples, you need to have a scientific collector's permit from the New York State DEC. Many of you already have that. If you don't, you need to get that, and whatever property access permissions. And if you're using human subjects, you need IRB approval. So you need to acknowledge that you need to have those if you're encouraged for funding. Then comes your budget section, and it's just an estimated request, year 1, year 2, and total for your request from Sea Grant. The same for the cost share. Then just briefly mention expected sources of cost share. And then are you going to request a Sea Grant scholar, yes or no, and how many? This is the meat of your proposal. This section, A through C, is 2 pages and no more than 2 pages. So do not exceed the 2 pages for this A through C. A statement of the issue and the objectives, explain how your research will adjust the topics and present the overall objectives. If it's a model and or decision-making or tool development, clearly state the intent and end users. Briefly describe the approach and accomplishments, and the hypotheses to be tested, and then the outcomes and societal benefits. Who's going to use this? Who are the beneficiaries? This is very important. So this is 2 pages. Then on a new page, present your citations. Then on a new page, for each listed investigator, that's principal, co, and associate investigator, you need to include a 2-page CV. You can use the standard NSF version if you want. And then possible peer reviewers. Do not include people who you worked with or collaborated with or published with in the last 4 years. And you may also list people that you would rather that we didn't ask as well. And then at the end, we're being asked to ask you to submit a voluntary demographics form. The lead PI would fill this out. It's optional. It doesn't play a role in who gets funded or not. If you decide to do it, you just click on the link to the form. And then once you're ready and you come through here, you just click on this. And it takes you to here. You fill out your information. Your title is the title of the proposal. This will result in an error if you have a really very long proposal title. It's not necessary to put the full proposal title here. Just put the first 3 or 4 words. If you put a lot here, you'll get an error. So be careful about that. And then just copy what you put in your proposal here. And then you click browse and just, you get the standard thing, and you just click on the file, you click open, and you'll see it'll refresh, and you should see attached files, and it should be right there. And you click submit proposal, and it gets submitted, and you're done. And then it's up to us to process everything. So if you have any questions, I see there's a bunch in the chat. Sorry, when I'm in full screen mode, I only just see a narrow column, so I couldn't see all the questions. So I'll address them now. And so I'm gonna start. All right. So is there any limitation on the study area within the state? Yes, it's Great Lakes, Hudson River, Long Island Sound, Long Island Bays, St. Lawrence River Seaway, and their associated watersheds. On Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario tributaries, the Niagara River, and the adjacent watersheds. So if the Finger Lakes, we funded research that had part of a project in the Finger Lakes, but it's got to be part of the Great Lakes watershed, and it shouldn't be the main part of the project, and it needs to be applicable to what's going on in the Great Lakes. If you can work that out, yes, you can include like the Finger Lakes. In-kind matching is, yes, you can have in-kind matching. International, for international students, if they're matriculated in the university where they're at, they're eligible. Jeanne, do you have anything additional?
It depends where they're from and what type of visa they have. Sometimes I can pay them directly. Sometimes I have to transfer the funds to the university that's sponsoring them. But I can work with the grad school and we can make that happen. So international students can apply for your fellowships.
Yeah, so there's some additional steps, but they are. Can open access publication fees paid by institution count as match? Jeanne?
Yep, as long as the institution can verify them and their OSP office signs off on it as match, anything that's considered a direct cost can also be used as cost share.
One thing I should note in the full proposal, if you're encouraged for full proposal, part of that proposal is a letter of commitment saying that they're going to cover match. So if you have someone who's going to provide something for match, there needs to be a letter that goes with that. And those details are explained in the full proposal guidance. Okay. Will awarded projects be required to submit? CLAPs are an EPA thing, so that's if you're on the Long Island Sound RFP. For this one, you would have to fill out something similar called a NEPA form. And that's if you are encouraged for a full proposal. And the details about the NEPA form and guidance about that is given in the full proposal guidance. Let's see. So yeah, no CLAPs for NOAA. Yes, the cost for the Sea Grant Scholar comes out of your budget. So it's similar as if you had a graduate research assistant or other student worker. That would be part of your budget. Generally, the Sea Grant Scholar is the amount is the going rate that the department or the school pays for a graduate student assistant, and that's withheld, and then we use that to pay the fellowship. Jean Ann can provide more details about that. Let's see. I work at Cornell Cooperative Extension and plan to submit a grant, including a fellowship. To get my master's at Stony Brook, I plan to connect with a professor at Stony Brook to see who would be willing to take me as a can I submit a pre-proposal. So, Brooke, you're going to be a student?
Yeah, hopefully. I've been chatting with a few professors, but I was hoping to submit a pre-proposal before essentially like committing to one of them just because of the timeline.
So you're going to work it's through Cornell Cooperative Extension as an employee there.
Yeah, but I would either shift down my hours to dedicate my time to the master's degree or like take a year or so off. But I would submit the grant through Cornell Cooperative.
Right.
And
So
work
I
with
think,
mine. Sorry.
yeah, I'm not sure how that would work. Um, is the project going to be part of your degree program?
Yeah. Like I would assume it would be like my thesis.
Okay, so I think your professor should submit the pre-proposal and have them as your scholar. I think that would be the best way to do that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would work with them even if it's your project idea, I think it would work best if they were the PI who submitted the
It wouldn't be possible just because I would also be working with my boss who's a scientist at Cornell, and I think I would be working with him pretty closely. I
Okay,
could have him submit it,
he could submit it. Your boss could submit it. Yes.
and I would still be able to be written in as like
Yes.
a fellow. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that might make more sense just in terms of timeline.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to have your professor as a co-PI. So your boss would be the PI, your professor would be the co-PI, and you would be the Sea Grant Scholar. I think that would work.
Okay, sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome. You don't need to have the outline for the outreach plan is in the full proposal, Steve, but it's kind of a good idea to kind of have that in mind. And if you have some ideas, and you might want to reach out to extension people to kind of get some preliminary ideas of who would be the audiences for the project. But the only thing you have to have in your pre-proposal is check that acknowledgement. Yes, I have to have that. But the outline.
My main
Yes.
concern is just the amount of space we have to describe the project. And,
Yeah, you just have that
and-
acknowledgement, and that's not part of the 2 pages.
right, that's up front.
It's a separate acknowledgement. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I do plan to reach out, but just to save some space if I need to.
Yeah, no, that little thing that you check off is not included in the 2 pages.
And ask about the CRA arrangement.
Yes.
So that is not something I remember from the last time I had one of these. It was a long time ago, though. Is my understanding from what you said is that we basically have to front the cost for any purchase, or is this only for some purchases? There's not an account at the university, a billable account at the university.
You're at Stony Brook?
Yeah.
Yeah, we set up a direct account for you.
Okay.
For
So
other universities, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
For other universities, we do a cooperative agreement as a subcontract, And their university usually sets up a spending account for them, and then they bill us and we reimburse them. But
Okay.
since you're already at Stony Brook, you'll just get a line, basically a line of credit off of our grant right away.
Understood that. Okay, thanks.
All right. Yeah, so what is the average cost or known cost for a PhD scholar or a master's scholar?
I've already answered some of these, Lainey.
Okay. Yeah, it usually goes by your institution's approved rate, and so Jean Ann will work with you. Let me make sure. Okay, so Adam, Jean Ann answered that. How many proposals will be funded? Probably 8 to 10. That's what we're aiming for. Okay, I've reached the end. Any other questions?
Sorry, just another quick question. How many pre-proposal would you encourage out of? Is there?
So you can submit more than one pre-proposal. You know, don't. No, usually it's not unusual for maybe 2 or 3 pre-proposals. You know, we don't want you to submit 10. You know, but you could submit 1 or 2 pre-proposals as a lead PI, and then you could be a co-PI on 1 or 2 other pre-proposals. So,
Well, my question was that more. What is the percentage successful rate of proposal get funded when it comes to full proposal?
so if almost half, because we will probably request, encourage maybe 16 to 20 full proposals, and we're going to fund 8 to 10 projects.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so so go to the web page, click on that link. One question I have for you: were you on the RFP list? Did you get the email, or did you find out about this through social media? Okay. So you're on the RFP list, so that had some of the links in there. So great. And if you're not on the email, you can email me and I'll add you to that. So just remember nysgproposal.org and click on the link to the submission page, and there's the link to the RFP. And if you got the email, that document that I went through was attached to that email, so you got that. And on that very end, I would just use that as a template for your pre-proposal. Adam, we don't particularly have any preference. We just encourage early career to apply, because we always like to expand to new people and institutions. But they're not. Each proposal is reviewed independently on its own merits. So that's the answer to that. But we're always happy to have new people to try to apply. And it might take a few tries, but you know, we appreciate it. Yeah, so other organizations can be collaborators or partners in outreach, and they may even be subcontracts too. You definitely want to do that sort of thing, Matt. And if you have student or budget related questions, contact Jean Ann, jeanann.johnston@stonybrook.edu, and I'm lane.smith@stonybrook.edu. You know, early career, someone's just starting out their PhD within the last 5 or so years, or someone who's switched. They might be well established, but they're saying, I want to do research in coastal marine science and instead of biogeochemistry. So it could be someone who's switching, or someone who just recently got a PhD. Yes, and if you're a postdoc, you know, if you have your PhD and you're a postdoc, you can apply, but you know, I don't know if in specific institutions have any rules about that. I haven't come across that. All right, we've got a couple minutes. Any more questions? Was this all helpful for you? Did going through the document and the form help out at all? Is this a good thing to do? Great. Nice. And of course, you can always contact us between now and when you submit with questions. Good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Brooke. Good luck.
Thanks, Lee.
Good luck, Steve. Thanks. All right, it's almost 3 o'clock. So if you have any more questions, we will try to post this as soon as possible so you can review it and share with your colleagues. And be sure to reach out to us anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.